So I would like to bring up our next speaker from Kyushu University's Graduate School of Integrated Frontier Sciences, Zichao Liang, with his talk, Analysis of Practices for Multicultural Disaster Prevention Education in Japan from a Cultural Tuning Perspective. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Zichao Liang. I'm a master's student majoring in the Department of Conscious Science at Kyushu University. And my main research focuses on disaster prevention education for foreign residents in Japan. My English is not very good. This is my first time giving a presentation in English. Thank you. So I may speak a bit slowly. I apologize in advance if there are any issues, and I appreciate your understanding. Here is the content I will be presenting today. First, I will explain the background. The population of foreign residents in Japan is increasing by 4.8% annually, and as their communities continue to grow, there is a growing need for further development and evolution of disaster prevention education designed to accommodate multicultural needs. Although research on disaster prevention education for foreign residents in Japan is relatively limited compared to that for Japanese residents, various methods have been attempted, such as disaster prevention cards and manual workshops, simplified Japanese, and games. Most previous studies focus on specific groups like international students or tourists and so on. Very few address the relationship and interaction between foreign residents and Japanese communities they live in. In this study, as a foreign resident myself, I aim to overcome the challenges and limitations of previous research on disasters prevention education for foreign residents by building report through long-term cooperation with local community members. Based on the above, these studies aimed to design and implement multicultural disaster prevention education tools and spaces for both foreign and Japanese residents living in the same community, and to evaluate their effectiveness through practical application and analysis. This study focus on the Yusuka area in Hakata Ward, Fukuoka City, where we collaborated with both Japanese and foreign residents to design and implement multicultural disaster prevention education tools and spaces. Foreign residents make up 4% of the total population in Hakata Ward. The highest percentage within Fukuoka City. In recent years, the number of residents with Vietnamese and Nepalese background has notably increased, and the Yusaka area is no exceptions. There are 4 Japanese language schools located around the Yusaka area, attracting a large population of foreign residents. Additionally, the Yusaka area is home to the Yusaka shopping street, a local symbol with over 70 years of history. In 2023, a fair broke out in the shopping street, resulting in 2 fatalities. The focus of the studies analysis is an initiative called the Yusaka Dialogue, and event held September 14th, 2024. This event around multicultural coexistence and disaster prevention was collaboratively designed and managed by local volunteer from the Yusaka area and myself. The event had 2 parts. In the first part, short presentations were given by reps from the Yusaka shopping street disaster prevention company, the local fire brigade, community residents, disaster prevention experts, and foreign residents. This followed by group discussion based on the presentation. In the second part, we conducted a town walk using a fire prevention map that had been collaboratively created in advance by the Yusaka Disaster Prevention Committee and me. The fire prevention map included information about the shops, the location of fire alarms, fire hydrants, and so on, as well as evacuation roads and multilingual information for issuing evacuation calls. Following the fire prevention map, we conducted the town work to identify local risks. Finally, we held a group discussion where participants shared ideas on fire and disaster prevention measures counters to the risks of the area and the diverse cultural backgrounds of the participants. This study was analyzed using pre- and post-event questionnaire for participants, as well as reset record data from the discussions and questionnaires during the Yusaka Dialogue event. Among the participants of the Yusaka Dialogue, 21 responded to both the pre- and post-event questionnaires. The data will analyzed using the Wilcoxon signed rank test with a significance level of 0.05 to compare the change before and after the event. The results showed significant difference in the responses to two questions. These findings indicate that through the USICA dialogue event, participants not only depend their understanding of disaster prevention, but also increases their awareness of the need of for multicultural responses during the disasters. However, based on the desire to understand foreign cultures, no significant difference were found in those questions before after the event. The lack of significant difference in these questions is likely due to the fact that the average response were already high before the event, resulting in consistently high score that made it difficult to detect any significant change. Studies aim to design and implement multicultural disaster preparation education tools and spaces for both foreign and Japanese residents living in the same community, and to evaluate their effectiveness in the section. In this section, I will discuss the effectiveness of the initiative in two key areas. The first point is change in attitude towards disaster prevention. And the second point is the change in attitude regarding multicultural understanding. The first point, as indicated by the questionnaire residents discussed in the previous section, participants showed an increased understanding of disaster preparedness in addition to the serving findings and analysis of the comments during the event learning that foreign residents learning the meaning of fair hydrous for the first time, and Japanese residents became more aware of the importance of early stage fair fighting. The message is that both groups gained more specific knowledge and understanding of disaster prevention. The second point, the USICA dialogue on disasters prevention enhanced participants' willingness to engage in multicultural exchange.
Zichao, your time is If
sorry.
you want to talk about your conclusion or your, you want to finish up, wrap up, so we can get to questions.
Quickly. Future prospect to determine whether the attitude change both ways in these studies. We will continue long-term follow-up research will be conducted. That is, while these studies focus on analyzing the pre and post-event stage of the Yusika dialogue, as well as the event itself. Future research will need to examine the preparation protocols leading up to the event for more detailed analysis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, the floor is open for questions.
Hi there, thank you so much. Well done for first presentation. Awesome, awesome. Could you tell us what the biggest challenge or challenges were for you?
自分の、この研究について、ちょっと、自分一番、なんかチャレンジ is その文化の、文化の、調整とかみんなの、その文化背景の違いということをちょっと自分ちょっと実体験しました。
So it's definitely one of the things is like experiencing and interacting with the different cultural backgrounds with all the different people having had to interact through this experiment. Okay. One more question, I think. Yeah.
There's no one
Alina?
else?
Yeah. Okay. If there's no one, yeah, Alina, go ahead.
There's only no one else. Thank you for your talk, and I'm always quite interested because I'm a foreign resident in Japan, and we get so many pamphlets and information on the mailbox, and I don't know which one is important and which one is not, especially in my first day in Japan when I can't speak or read any Japanese. And I think also this goes back to when we on the day one, design is really important, because sometimes I think even if you can't read, but if you can have a good design, then without the understanding of knowledge, we can understand, right? And in your project, this is very interesting. Do you put any emphasis on design, how to communicate using design?
今のこの、リサーチは、その地域住民と一緒に、このさっきの、防火マップ、Fair Prevention Map、その防火マップは、もともと、その吉塚商店会の吉塚、ショッピング、ストリートの、もともとの、買い物、マップということです。それを基づいて、みんなの、その地域住民とか、地域団体とか一緒に、コラボレーションして、なんか新しい、内容、新しい防災に関する内容を、その入れて、新しいデザインとかを、完成しましたという感じですかね。
Yeah, so the map that they used in the education was kind of a local shopping map that they were thinking of, and so trying to get everybody's opinion on that when it comes to like making disaster prevention maps of the future. Yes, they'll have to take in everybody's opinions and ideas and kind of design a newer, more understandable disaster prevention map. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so for our final speaker of the day, I would like to invite up Adam Phillips from RIKEN with his talk, Creating Your Own Metric for Press Release Assessment. I'm certain probably a lot of us are going to need this, that's for sure.
Hi, I'm Adam from RIKEN. And so this is what I'm going to talk to you about today is kind of a work in progress. So any suggestions or feedback during the questions or afterwards is of course welcome. And so I wanted to, so this is about creating a metric for a press release assessment, but it's also about why or what we think at RIKEN are, the metric should include, right? So it might differ. Every institute has their own purposes or their own, what you think is important. So the idea here is to be able to make a metric that reflects how to assess what you're doing. And of course, it's going to be most important for people writing press releases, but the concept should be applicable to anything. But before I start, let me just, can you raise your hand if you're doing press releases and this is going to be useful for you? Okay, good. All right. So
those are two questions you asked.
Okay, sorry. All right. The word police are here. Okay. So let me explain a little bit about where this is coming from. We usually we're looking at just the total number of media coverage for our press release to say, kind of how well it did. But we kind of got to a point where we didn't really like that anymore because it was a little, I won't say simplistic, but it misses out on some of the other factors that we think are important. So hopefully I can convey some of that to you today. Is this not working? Okay. So the first thing that I think you really need to do when you are thinking about something like this, it's kind of suspiciously like designing an experiment or planning a class that you're going to teach or something like that. So I think you need to, of course, define your objectives. Then you have to choose your methods for achieving those objectives. And you have to decide how you're going to assess those objectives with metrics. So you have to choose metrics that actually measure what you're trying to, measure. So I said it better on the slide. They should reflect the extent to which your objectives have been achieved. And then you need to collect the data and do the assessments and repeat and revise what you're doing if you got results that you didn't like, right? So if it turns out you're not getting the outcomes that you want, you need to go back and look at what part, what are you doing wrong that you can change to get a better outcome. So, like maybe many of us at our various institutions, there's this overarching objective at RIKEN that we need to increase global awareness of RIKEN and its achievements around the world, right? And that's very vague, and we can't measure that ever, right? It's not possible. We'll never know if what we're doing is really affecting that. So instead, of course, we're going to focus here on objectives related to press release outcomes that we can actually measure. And we're going to assume that if these go up, global awareness will go up. But that's an assumption that we have there's no factual basis for that. But we'll do it anyway. So what we came up with, at RIKEN is that, you need to, assessment is to judge how successful something is, right? So we need to define a successful press release. So we kind of came up with this sentence, a successful press release generates large amounts of high quality global media coverage, as well as interest by reporters, the public, and industry. So in here you can see the first part is about the coverage, but the second part is about generating interest that that information is not available just looking at the total number of media coverage, right? So we're interested when journalists email us or our researchers and they want to talk and they write a story. To us, that's that's a good outcome, right? So that should, we need to weight our assessment on, when we get those kinds of outcomes, those should be treated as higher scores in our system. And so there's some other things going on in there which I'll get back to in a minute. And I guess this is just what I said earlier. So yeah, we assume this, but it might not be true. But it's still a useful exercise. So how do we measure success, and what metrics do we have that can be applied to our goals, right? So of course we have the total number of coverages, right? But there's some other things that I want to talk about. So I'm going to break this down. And I should say that this is coming from the fact, at least we're able to do this because in 2023, our partners at RIKEN, the Japanese Public Relations Office, got a subscription to Meltwater, and they allowed us to have access to it. And so you can get a lot of data from Meltwater that you really just can't get if you're messing around on Google and doing searches. And so a lot of this has to, what we can do depends on the data that we can get, right? So we're going to break down that first part of the sentence that I showed you earlier. So a successful press release generates 1, large amounts of coverage, 2, high quality, and 3, global media coverage. So the metrics that we can use for the total coverage is the amount of total coverage. That's pretty obvious, right? For the quality of the source, right, or this in the text, it's the high quality. But so there's 2 things that we came up with. One is going to be the whether the source is a major media source that we've defined as something we want to get published in. So if it's going to be something like on CNN or the New York Times or something like that is going to be major news, and we want to weight that in our score. Then we also have, from Meltwater, we get data which is called the estimated reach. So it's like every website has a number of users, a number of people that visit it. It's an estimation. So it's not a direct measure of the number of people that viewed your stuff, but it's the potential that site has. So that news source is maybe a higher quality if it has 50 million viewers instead of 10, right? And then when we go to globalness, okay? So globalness is something that we think is very important because we're the international communications team and we're writing English press releases for the purpose of getting our stuff all over the world, not just America or the UK or Australia or English-speaking countries, but we want it to get everywhere. So we can get the metrics that we can use there, the number of countries that the news is coming from, the languages that those countries speak, and the number of coverages that are in languages other than English. Because we figure, I think earlier, the second speaker in the first session was saying that people are reading in their local language. So if our press releases are either written about, or if our press release leads to an article that's written in another language, or if it's just a translation of our press release into another language by some AI, which we can, that's a good use of AI. So we consider that to be pretty, that's important. And then the last part is the interest by reporters, the public or industry. And so this is kind of not, the first part is a little intuitive. So, we consider social media, if the media coverage is shared on social media, we count that. So that's another bit of information you can get from Meltwater. And then we have these other measures which are unrelated to Meltwater. These are data that we collect, right? So the number of times the media contacts us, or industry, or just the general public with questions, or they want an interview or something like that. And then we look at whether something actually happened because of that. So sometimes we get contacted and they don't write anything, right? So that's we got contacted, but there's no outcome. And sometimes we get contacted by industry, we want to do a collaboration, and it might happen, it might not happen. So the contact itself is a good result, but it's separate from whether there's an outcome from that. And then this last one is the views on our website. And we're not really sure if we want to include that or not, but it's a way of looking at, we have that data, so we kind of want to use it, but it's not really a measure of general public interest, but it is, it is a measure of interest in the press release. And so here's just a couple examples about the non-media related responses. So, and this is stuff that you can't get just by looking at media coverage, right? So this first one was, we were contacted a few years ago by this group, I can't remember what they're called and I can't really see it, but they transform papers into like a version for kids. And they have like grade school kids and high school kids. So they like kind of rewrite the paper with consulting with our researcher to make it nice, and they make like YouTube videos, and they have questions for students to answer afterwards. And if you go to their website, it's actually pretty cool. So they contacted us. One student had seen that press release, and they asked to do it, and it got done. And then this other one is just like an email I got yesterday from somebody, some guy doing a company in Brazil they're interested in green hydrogen production, and our researcher, they really liked the press release they saw, and they want to do a collaboration. So we get that kind of stuff, and we think it's important. So then, okay, so you sort of know what you want, you have those metrics. Now you have to decide how much is each worth, right? And this is something that we have been having many meetings about at our, in our team and with our bosses, and we kind of have come up with this basically, but it's not set in stone. So we may want to change it. But so, and these are arranged. Well, I can get into that later. I won't. It's not that important. But so we have 4 sections, and we decided to weight them equally because it's easier. Okay. Our original idea was to have total coverage be worth more than 25%, and to have the interest part be less, but then it just becomes more difficult when you're managing everything. And it's difficult to explain with the graphs and stuff, so we made it balanced. And so you can just see these are sort of the percents that we decided for each like subcategory within there. And so I'm not going to get into like the details of how to like multiply stuff, because I think everybody can multiply. But you make basically for each score, for each sub-score, you make you score it from 1 to 100, and then at the end you multiply that by that percent, and then you add it together. So this wasn't too difficult. This part we were kind of sure, like, okay, these are the things that we're interested in, and these are the percentages or the weights that we like. But then, this is the hard part. You have to come up with cutoffs for each part that's not a yes/no value, right? So, for example, right, how many press release coverage, how many coverages is enough that you get full points for that section, right? So like, what is success? Is 50 media coverages success, or is 20 or 30 or 100? So it's really this was really difficult, and we're not really sure. We haven't really fixed this for sure about what we want. But right now we're using 50 as a above 50 you're going to get 25 points for that no matter what. And then the same thing for each other one. So how many countries do you consider to be global enough to be the most global you can be? And right now we're using 15, but it could be that in the future we want to raise it or something like that. Or at least by comparison, we'd be able to say, well, now 15 is too low because we're doing so well, and in order to not get a full score every time, you have to keep raising those values, something like that. So this is an example of how it looks. I don't know if it's hard to see if it's coming out clear on there, I noticed that in a couple other presentations too.
Speaking of cutoff, Adam, you have to wrap up.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the last slide, basically. So so you can see there's 4 points on this thing representing the 4 sections, and they add up to the final score. And you can see some examples. We have very low scores, and we have high scores and middle scores, so it's a good system. If I plotted you out the distribution, it wouldn't be terrible. And you can get the averages and look at that sort of thing. And I wanted to say just one thing. We had one score which was 100 in the last 2 years of data. And this was a press release about the horsehair worms and the mantises. They steal genes from the mantises in order to be their parasite. So in that ending, I will stop and ask for some questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, floor is open for questions. Oh, we got a lot here. Let's go start from the earlier here and then work our way down.
Decide, I'm not pointing.
Thank you, Adam, for the work shared, work in progress being shared. I have a question regarding one of the metrics, quality sources. How do you define major press coverage? And I ask this question because one newspaper considered a major one in one country may not be so in the other. And I wonder whether the advertising equivalent value is something that you may choose to define.
Right. So it's totally subjective. It's completely just we got together as a team and made basically a list, and we update it sometimes. So we sort of we use Wikipedia to see this says this is the second largest newspaper in Brazil, then we're going to say okay, that's major news, right, or something like that. Or if it if it doesn't come up on any searches, then it's not going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel from Kobe University. Have you considered surveying any of your stakeholders, like researchers, for example, for what kind of impact press releases have on them?
No, we haven't. That could be interesting. I mean, in what we don't include in here, right, is sometimes we do press releases to make researchers happy, because we may not think it's going to get a big response, but we do it anyway. And so there is that aspect of we need to keep open channels and a good relationship with all our researchers, and we want to we have many different centers, and we want to balance a little bit where our press releases are coming from. So there is that aspect, and so if a good outcome could be better relationship with the researcher or something like that, but we haven't included that, and we haven't asked them if they got any benefit from the press release, but that is something we could look into.
In Harvard, we've been doing that regularly. The most insightful piece of data.
Thank you. Sorry, before we get into our last questions, people who are going to the campus tour today, the students are already waiting outside. You have 2 minutes to get outside there. So people who are doing campus tour, please make your way through, and then Pinto can ask his question.
Pinto from Hokkaido University. Pardon that I can't be seen for a moment. I'm actually very interested in your talk because I do press releases for Hokkaido University and we use meltwater. And I do have one question about specifics, and specifically relating to languages of news source. When a news source uses Roman characters, pretty easy to find. Cyrillic, if they start using Arabic or perhaps the other languages, it becomes a lot harder. How have you dealt with that?
Well, okay, so this is another figure of countries we had last month. But so in meltwater, you can use different languages, right, to search. And I didn't get into this, but what I do is I wrote a little program which will translate my keywords automatically into all the languages that DeepL translates to, and they did add Arabic recently. So this is skewed towards DeepL's ability to translate, because I'm not searching for Persian, or Farsi, and I'm not searching for like Hindi or things like that, which are not, what I'm not doing. But we do get we do have a bunch of Arabic coverage recently. Since they added that, we can find it, and we can find definitely Chinese and Korean and stuff like that. But it becomes a long search in Meltwater. It's like this or this or this or this or this or this. You know, it's like 20 different languages.
All right, thank you very much. Give another round of applause for Adam.